Hi everyone, hope you're managing well in these worrying times. Following on from the presentation I did last week on mindfulness and how that can help children and adults understand their behaviour and live life in a slightly different way, which helps us to focus on what we're doing in the here and now. Today we're going to talk more about anger and understanding where anger comes from. This does help us to manage the anger better and helps children to understand their feelings. So if you can look at the first picture on the screen, and this picture represents an iceberg. So if you imagine when you see an iceberg, you just see the tip of that iceberg. The humongous, massive part of the iceberg is under the sea. And this is like anger. We see the behaviour, we see our children really acting out, but underneath that anger, there is a lot going on. Some of the emotions that I've put on this diagram are frustration, worry, sadness, fear, loneliness, jealousy, insecurity, anxiety. There are many more. So it's probably worth doing this diagram with your children and getting them to think about what feelings are underneath the surface. Use emojis, pictures, whatever you need, depending on the age of the child. Frustration is usually the one that comes directly before the anger. But underneath that frustration, it could be anything, and it will be layered. So getting right down those layers and finding the one emotion that is really causing the problem gives us a real good chance of helping the child deal with that anger by dealing with the base problem. The next picture you can see is the picture of the traffic lights, and getting the children to draw traffic lights or make them in any way can help with this process. But if we look at this, the red represents stop, as usual, and it's finding out where in that sort of diagram of emotions, so which emotion is causing the problem, of trying to get them to learn to stop at that point. So they're learning what emotion causes the anger and then learning to relate to the traffic light system and stop at that point. Then we move on to the amber, which in this case represents think. As we talked about in the mindfulness presentation, thinking using the rational part of the brain does stop us in our tracks and stops the automatic pilot reaction, which in this case, for today's purpose, is anger. To help the child engage their thinking brain, if they're in full flow and about to get really angry, we need to do something to ground them, and it has to be pretty basic. So the usual counting to 10, counting from 10 down to 0, getting them to do physical things which they have to think about, like moving around, jumping up and down 10 times, anything that just stops them and makes them think. It can be spelling their name, it can be asking them their name and where they are and what day it is. Anything that grounds them and brings them back to the present moment is helpful. It's also good to think of things that they are happy to do in this situation. So when we're talking about doing this and drawing the traffic lights, they can come up with some ideas themselves so they feel a little bit more in control when they are starting to feel angry. The final step is the green on the traffic lights, which represents breathe. There are many breathing exercises. We did a 5-step breathing exercise using the hand in the mindfulness presentation. There's also just basic breathing in for 4, out for 4, counting, recognizing the breath. That's the main thing. Also putting the hand on their tummy and getting them to breathe so that the tummy moves up and down, so the hand moves up and down when they're breathing. That can be something that engages their brain and makes them breathe deeply. It's the breath, the deep breaths, that will calm them down, but they can't do that until they have engaged their brain. Engaging the brain is the first step, and this is for anxiety as well as anger. So as the last picture shows, that's all folks. I hope you're all coping well. Enjoy your children. Enjoy having this time with them. It is hard work, but some good will come out of it. If there's any suggestions or requests of anything you would like me to cover, I'm happy to take those on board and try and produce something to help you. As Little Miracles, we're still trying to keep in touch with all of our little ones and the parents, still trying to provide a service. So if there's any suggestions you have or comments you'd like to make, please do so. Take care. Bye-bye.
We are Little Miracle. We need your help.
Please donate what you can. Click the donate button below or text Rainbow to 70660 to donate £3.